Okay, so we had a 15-minute question period. Can we shorten it to 10 minutes? uh, Raise your hands. No questions. Okay, let's go on to the discussion. Well, you can always raise your hand if the question pops up in your mind. I want to thank all the presenters. This was really a wealth of information and great diversity as well. I just want to ask you if you feel a little bit dizzy right now, intellectually dizzy. It means you're at the right place. This is the reason why we are together today. It's because we are so diverse in interests, in background. Our goals and objectives are different in our day-to-day work, but we came here because we are scattered, and our objectives are to try and find some common grounds today and tomorrow. So some of you have received this little discussion paper beforehand, so you had a time to read it. It was just a document to help orient your thoughts and maybe to create some common ground before we sit together. It's not really important that everybody read it, but it might help a little bit if you already thought of some of the ways you want to discuss our workshop objectives. I'm not sure who didn't read it, but I have a feeling it's all the people that were added up to the group recently. So just to sum up in 1 minute or two, in the coming hour and a half, I would like to build four polls, four groups of discussion that will each discuss one separate aspect of our workshop. And those groups will be formed hopefully naturally, organically, so if some people are all interested in one topic, they can all rush to one corner of the room, and if there are only 2 people left on the other side, well, we'll do 4 groups to discuss the same issue. We're not going to force anybody to discuss issues if there is no basic interest. So there are 4 main aspects to the workshop that are suggested here as a basis to form a subgroup, a discussion group. In your little program, you will see that we called it issue number 1, or in French it was dossier numéro 1, dossier numéro 2, 3 et 4. So in the English version of the program, issue number 1 was called Constraints to Acquisition and Dissemination of Knowledge. So this is one great aspect of the workshop objectives that we would like to discuss. And basically, each group will discuss an issue and come up with common ground on their thoughts. Or if there are differences in views, well, they will tell us what was the main difference or what were the various aspects of their discussion. Issue number 2 would be transparency and confidentiality. When we talk about knowledge acquisition, this is a very important issue. The dissemination of information in the context of the knowledge that we are talking about here. These are major issues. That's why I'm talking in a very general manner, but all of you in one way or another touched upon this. Information sharing and local and traditional knowledge have something to do with transparency and confidentiality issues. So this would be a second group. A third group would be talking about reinforcing analytical capacity, empowerment within the communities and organizations on the territory. So that's another topic altogether. How do we make the communities more and better prepared to really take advantage of the development forums that take place when development happens on the land? How do we make sure that the communities have a meaningful participation, involvement, and their share of the pie in deciding the future of the territory? How do we do that? How to make, on a day-to-day basis, do we have any ideas on how to make the communities stronger? So that would be one group. And the fourth issue would be the establishment of an information management system. So this is the big baby that it would be nice to come out tomorrow of this workshop with an idea of how all of us feel this could be doable. Is it doable to think of a convergence of all the knowledge and where there would be a space where people can go to find information, to give information, and to agree on how to disseminate or share the information? What does it look like? What is that? Because we all know what a database is, but a database that would gather all the information we need to work on the future of the territory is kind of a biggie. But why not start talking about it now? Because this is one of the objectives of the workshop, to create a forum, a discussion forum where all of us stakeholders meet and share our vision of how to talk about these things. So we're just starting to talk about the same issues with our different points of view. We are all very different in our objectives, as I said, on a day-to-day basis, but we are all here for one reason, and it's to meet and share our visions. So no more questions? No, nobody thought about a question about any of the conference? Yes, please, Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we get into workshops, into different groups, at my age, you like to tell a little story. And in court, you speak the truth and nothing but the truth. The judge will always ask you that. First, it is the reality, even for a hunter. To provide the bread and the butter on the table for your children. To provide the shelter, to provide the clothing, to provide all the daily essentials. That's what the JBACE Northern Quebec Agreement is all about. And that has not changed. Today the Crees are going further. They're not trying to be not only partners in the planning of future projects, but they are seeking partnerships in the actual development of natural resources. They're trying to take every opportunity that comes our way in EUC to train our people, to get our people employed so they can provide the bread on the table for their own families in the same way as a hunter like me does. Today I'm supposed to go and set up my snares. Tomorrow I go and check my snares. And it's for the same purpose, is to provide the bread on the table for my family. But I withheld because I was invited to this meeting. And when the meeting is over, then I will continue my plans. Section 28 of the JBACE Agreement, back in 1975. The Crees wanted to be involved in the planning of any future in development. The hope is that the Cree representatives on the JBACE Committee on the Environment, the Federal Review Panel, the Cree representatives there, and the Cree representatives on the Quebec Review Committee are the spokespeople for the Cree. Their job is to study the architectural drawings of any project. So the Cree can propose at the planning stages of any project amendments to the architectural drawings of the project to lessen the negative impact on the Cree way of life, on the wildlife they depend, on the land, on the water, and nature. Their job was to protect that. That's why Section 22 JBACE Agreement, Social and Environmental Protection Regime is supposed to protect that, what the Cree need to survive on. The little story I want to tell you is about my own dad. My dad now is passed away 10 years ago. My mom, thankfully to the Creator, she's still alive at the age of 84, and she's at my house. About 12 years ago, maybe more than that, 15 years ago, we used to take mom and dad to our trapline, family trapline, which is about 200 miles from here, every fall. And one fall, we came back to return to the community. I was working there. Before taking off the order that we have here in Stastny, my dad asked his grandson Tommy Scapio. He waved to him as they went out on the plane to return to Stastny on the river. He asked his little grandson Tommy, "Will you ask the pilot?" The pilot was a non-native. The native pilot was not available that day, so they had to use Jill, who lives in Chibougamau, to fly the plane for him. He asked little Tommy, ask the pilot, when we are airborne, when we take off this camp, can you get him to circle 2 times the camp area before he sets the direction for Mistassini to go home? And the pilot nodded. As they took off, they circled the camp area, not more than twice, but 3 times. And as they took off, they were climbing altitude, higher and higher and higher. The 3rd time, the pilot asked little Tommy, can you ask your grandpa, can we now take our direction to Mistassini? And he tapped his grandpa's left shoulder because he was in the pilot's seat looking out the window. And as my dad turned to little Tommy, he was all in tears. For 2 hours from our camp to Mistassini, he only looked out the window, on the front window. He recognized the canoe route that he used to make. Mind you, to reach our trap line is 76 portages. And to go further into the trap line, if you want to set your camp at Corbett Lake, it's 96 portages. Mistasni Tunitsgun is 64 Portasses. Dad never talked about the hardships of that Kuwait life. He only talked about the beauty of that way of life and the beauty of the nature. He never talked about the hardships. When they landed here in Stasny, my dad, his eyes were all red from the tears. The non-native asked me, pilot, why did the old man cry for? He never told nobody why he shed the tear. He never told me why. He never told Mum. He never told my brothers and sisters why. But I knew why. And that was because that was going to be his last visit to his happy hunting ground, where he had made a living all his life and feeded his family of being a hunter, fisherman, and a trapper. And surely enough, that following fall, he was diagnosed of kidney failure, both kidney. He had to go on a hemodialysis machine. He could never go back to his happy hunting ground. The tears of my dad was the love of that land. That's why. Another experience in Wiminji, around in early 80s, either 1981 or 1982, after the hydro project was finished. Hydro took elders from Wiminji. There was a CRA General Assembly. I happened to be there. Hydro took elders with 2 other aircrafts to tour the LG-2, to tour the reservoirs, to tour the underground turbine. After supper, like I always do, I took a little walk all the time by the shore. And I could hear the planes coming. So I thought I'm going to go down and help the elders off the plane and ask them, how is the tour? The first plane arrived and came to the shore, and I walked up to the dock, thinking I'm going to ask, how is the tour? Much to my surprise, as they walked off the plane, just like that, they were all in tears. The old lady, she was using her kerchief to wipe the tear. I could not ask the question, how's the tour? I only heard one elder as he walked up to his daughter and to his son say these words. In Cree, the exact words is, Nuit Tumas knocked out. And if you translate it into English, it's sad what they have done to the land. The second order, again, I'm thinking, I'm going to ask, how's the tour? As I helped the elders come down the step of the altar, exactly the same, all in tears. They've been crying for hours, just like if they came out from a funeral service. And I'm thinking, it's just like that. Those tears from the elders were tears of sadness. They were not tears of happiness, but the tears of sadness for the loss of the land and the beauty of that land, which they once roamed and hunted and fished and trapped and made a living from, which helped them provide the bread and the butter on the table for their families. Even if we get to live another 100 years, we will never see that land again back to its natural beauty the way it was before the hydro project. And I'm pleased now, in 1973 James Bay court case, I thought the Crees were alone in fighting to protect the environment. But I'm pleased now to see many friends of mine, many partners of mine, that they're there sharing the same interest as the Cree to protect the environment. So let's work together, because our children need that land, and our grandchildren need that land, and all its resources and its beauty. I want you people to keep that in mind as you do your workshops and your discussions and your continuation of workshop tomorrow. I wanted to make that statement. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you. So, any questions from about the presentations that were made? No? Okay. So maybe we can proceed to move towards one of the four corners. I thought we could organize our discussion groups around the four corners of the room. So we could start by moving some of our chairs on this side and gather around the corner here. It'll be really nice, I know. You make a face, Martin, but we have no choice. We can't move around everything. We have a nice setup with the microphones. I just suggest that you be careful with the cables, of course. So I think we can associate one of the corners with one issue to facilitate our movement. Yeah. Let me find my English version here. So in this corner, it's not a boxing match, but we would discuss constraints to acquisition and dissemination of knowledge. So this is the very generic topic of the acquisition of knowledge. What are we talking about? Basically, I will probably come and try and pinpoint better with you what are the topics of interest for each of these main issues. If you have the document that was a discussion paper, you could always look at the questions and sub-questions that I suggested there for starters. And if you don't like those, great. It means you can come up with something that really has to do with your own interests and goals. So issue number 1 would be here. Issue number 2 would be in the other corner here on my right, transparency and confidentiality of information and information sharing. So this would be the right corner. At the other end of the room on my left issue number 3 would be reinforcing the community's analytical capacity and participation capacity as well. So over there. And on the right, establishment of the database or information management system that would be closer to the doors. So at go, we start. All right. Sorry?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll let
Catherine.
Oh, okay. You want a break
minute.
now? Because once we finish our break, you guys can totally come and discuss. And actually, I also want to ask you to designate one group head who will do the presentation of the results of your conversations and discussions after we do our session. All right? So group formation, find a leader, and after the break, you can sit. Yes, Thomas?
Yeah, Catherine, I also like to, I would appreciate if the Cree delegates here also participate in different, instead of us gathering in one place, that we all go in the different
Good thinking.
workshops.
Yes, you and me, we will help for that. We're going
Okay,
to separate them if they gather in one spot. You take the girls, I take the guys.
Something that we need to address here is that we need also at the same time when it comes to disseminating information or what have you to communities, we need to make efforts to make sure that the formats, and we said moyens, so I guess the means should be adapted to the audience, to the public audience. We talked about issues of education and so on, but we came back to the fact that, Cree, and in this case, the comment was taken from the perspective of the Inuit, but I think it still applies. The Cree and the Inuit are able to, they have the capacity to understand complex issues. Okay? That's not the issue. The problem is that it's not presented in a way that is easily to work through and to comprehend from the Cree perspective, for instance. Another issue, and it links immediately with that, is that in essence, we need to come to grips, we need to have a mutual understanding, right, of what it is we're working on. And when I say we, I mean the Cree and then the Western scientists and practitioners. We need to have a common understanding of what it is that we're doing and what we're trying to answer in terms of research questions or what have you. And the only way to do that is to sit down together from the beginning and to hash it out. I already mentioned financing, so that's that. One of the points that came up from one of our representatives from Hydro-Quebec and another representative from the CTA was that, the format or the precedent that was used for the East Main 1A river diversion and the program that was put in place from the beginning, from the outset of the project assessment, straight through to the monitoring phase, is a precedent that we should maybe look at because it implicated the Cree from the beginning. What was mentioned was, and this is, I just want to mention it because it's very interesting, is that when Hydro-Quebec was even setting up les devis, I'm sorry, request for quotes, is that it? Les devis? Terms of reference for the various consultants that they would be hiring to do the reports and so on. They would actually send those terms of reference or DV to the attention of the Cree members on the committee, on the monitoring committee, for them to comment before they even sent those out for the consultants. Excuse me. So in essence, the terms of reference were the object of input from the Cree. And then, of course, the Cree are highly involved over the course of the monitoring, both physically on the territory and, of course, in the space of the monitoring committee. So we see that at least in that case, there was a precedent, I guess you could say, for a long-term collaboration. Now, of course, things might not be perfect, but it would be certainly a precedent that we could use maybe as a means of moving forward with some sort of framework mechanism. Another thing that was mentioned, and it's more of it's a specific issue, is that we are all aware that the Cree and Native peoples they place a large importance on the verbal tradition, on the verbal means of communicating things. And one of the issues, at least for in terms of disseminating information, is to use that. And we know that the radio, for instance, is a means of informing the Cree. It's a good means of informing the Cree. So we should look into that. Long documents, for instance, may be not so good, right? Whereas the verbal avenue might be the best in some cases. We're not going to say that this is going to fit all scenarios. Other than that, really and truly, and I'll just get to the principles, I guess, of what is the heart of what we're saying here, is that it's respect, it's collaboration, it's working together. It's doing it over the long term for the interests of everybody, because let's face it, we're all working together here. A mining company who wants to do a project on the territory inevitably will have to be in contact with the local people. And so it only makes sense to foster this communication. And really, that's all I've got in terms of constraints. I don't want to get into everything. I've got 6 pages of notes. But other than that, I think really to wrap it all up is that the participants really stress the fact that we must have a holistic frame for exchanges and dissemination. And ideally, it's to be some sort of institutional vehicle or some sort of mechanism that can be flexible, of course, depending on the situation, but that can set up a framework, an established framework for the exchange of information. Is that more or less all right?
Thank you very much. Good word. Very beautiful word. You can clap. Okay. I don't know if I respected everything you said, because there's a lot of information, but I guess you have your notes, so eventually the leaders are going to have to collaborate in sharing their information. Group number 2, I think it's Joanne.
Merci. The question was, are there some constraints in dissemination of knowledge affecting the territory? A lot of the question addressed by the number 1 team, as I guess you were exchanging with the same Crees as we did, because lots of similarities in the answers. As of verbal communication, we were asking our team group, why is it so difficult to have access to data, especially numeric data? It's extremely difficult. Well, the answer was in the philosophy of Cree people, it's basically verbal communication that has been traditionally be the way to transfer the knowledge. So now that a group of researchers come to the band and say, oh, tell me how many moose you've killed, and so on and so forth. And the answer from the Cree people is a lot of time, well, I killed enough. So, and they will probably stick to this type of answer as long as they are not exposed to a true protocol, research protocol, where there's a true understanding of why is it so important to have numeric data on fishing or hunting. The people must see what's the benefit that can be drawn from such data gathering. We had an example as far we used the sturgeon studies. If the researcher can explain clearly to the fisherman or the tallyman that the sturgeon in this part of James Bay is in very bad shape, but if we have a better knowledge on the sturgeon population, we'll be able to come up with some strategies to lift up the population. So that's an incentive for Cree people to truly participate and perhaps have more numeric data. So that's a hint for all of you researchers, having a good protocol where the tallyman or Cree people, why doing this research? Where is the benefit? And they also mentioned why there was a fear to share such local knowledge. Since the tradition is to communicate to our family a good fishing spot or a spawning area, when you give it to written and you can have access to this fishing spot on a map on internet, there's a risk so that it's no longer a good spot because numerous people will come and fish to this great fishing area. So one way to reassure the Cree people towards this fear is to have an agreement with the research group that only the global results analysis will be published, but not the specific spots. For example, if you want to have a knowledge on the distribution of sturgeon across James Bay, your map will not say specifically on this area, this is the spawning or whatever. You will have a global idea of the population of the sturgeon. Also, I talked about the research protocol. Raw data will rarely be allowed for diffusion. This is the greatest fear among the people who share the knowledge, is to get down pinpoint on raw data. So this is to avoid. Clear benefit, I told that. Selection, okay. If you come up with in a community to have a study on example sturgeon again, it will be important that you select the people or the group of people who are going to be the people who share the data with you. Some might be more inclined to participate truly with a lot of assiduity to fulfill some data sheet. To select the participant people might be a good hint for a researcher in search of. There were some people around our table that relate that sometimes they do data gathering, but they cannot say if they have 1% of the sheet that have been fulfilled. So that's why selecting those who are going to participate is very important. Engagement from the researcher to come and present the results. One says, I think, Simeon, what's his name? Simon Pash said, Cree people must be the most studied people on the planet. He said, we have been studied by many groups and rarely can we see the results of all these studies? Simply come to us and tell us your story. We like stories. I, did I say it right? That's about the term he used to tell the searcher that having the end of the story is also very fun. So, and also telling the story, but also the follow-up. For example, if you pretend to have a good idea to solve the problem of a low population of sturgeon, if your strategy was right, tell us. It's good news is good. So follow-up is extremely important. He just said one-page resume bilingual. The language seems to be very important. The translation of the whole 3 inches document might not be necessary, but at least one-page resume bilingual might do the job. Well, the federal people ask us for an English version so that we could share, but perhaps it might be trilingual. Perhaps Simeon could tell us. But this request came from Elizabeth. Would you think she's asking if Cree? Some Cree. So and he talked about a platform of knowledge. But one thing which is also very necessary, there is this huge, global data bank, but you need to have a manager of to ease the diffusion. And it's like a website. A website that is not refreshed frequently is a dead website. So if this platform has not a vigilant update, it might not do the job. So have I forgot something? Okay.
Miigwech. Thank you very much. Group 3. Yeah, sure.
Aha. Okay, so this is, I think, going to be short and sweet by comparison with our the earlier groups, and I'd start by thanking the members of my group for very enriching discussion and inviting them to please fill in the gaps for after I just gave my little description. Okay, so really our chat was sort of all over the map, but the 3 kind of themes we came back to in empowerment, but we thought would empower communities in this area of information and research is first of all direct training. And one of our colleagues, our participants gave an example of training sessions on issues like water quality monitoring or wildlife, direct sort of biology-related training that equips people in communities with skills to enable them to participate in different aspects of environmental monitoring, on behalf of Crees, of proponents, of different organizations, but it equips them with skills to generate information and act on it. And we also talked about empowerment through participating in research initiatives. This is something that, a theme that I know the other groups have talked about, and we'll go on talking about the importance of collaboration at different stages of the research, and making sure that community members are engaged as partners throughout that process. So it's a learning and growing process for both parties, not just for communities, but also for researchers, for scientists, learning to see the world from another perspective, and that I think that tends to be mutually enriching. And then finally, empowerment through the results of research and related activities. And again, another participant gave an excellent example of a research result that had a concrete empowering benefit for the community in Mississippi, where there was, I'm sure he could explain it better, but there was a certain factor in the, I don't know, I would invite him to explain, but there is a research done to determine that there is one restaurant in town that was serving a very high amount of, I think, saturated fat, or a very bad fat in the food. Trans fats, thank you. Okay, this gentleman can give you the better story after I'm done butchering it. But and by isolating that factor, you're able to vastly reduce the amount of trans fats that were found in people's general state of health in the community. So actually the results of research can have directly a very empowering benefit for communities as well. And the other themes we talked a lot around this that we've already touched on, so I can see there's already some themes setting up, is again, collaboration, the transfer of knowledge and skills. Just as, within Cree families, the knowledge is transferred, Willie talked about this from father to son, and that's empowering. He's empowering his son with that knowledge. But we have to ensure that we mutually empower ourselves and each other with the knowledge that we're building through different research initiatives that we carry out on the territory. And I'm sure there's more, but that's what I've got from my notes. So. No, that's fine. That's fine. I've got notes, but
Group for Anne-Marie?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm not the leader, but I've been designated.
We will take that into consideration.
Yeah, because apparently no one could read my notes, so I'm not sure I can either. But okay, basically the problems we noted was that there is no if there is no samples that are taken for research, there is no information structure about the research that are done in the territory. We were taking, for example, the structure. José was talking about the structure in place in Nunavut territory, about just type of, like, I don't know if was it the government or. Okay, that was an institute. Okay, so just to present the protocols, and just to have to fill a formulaire. I don't know how to. Yeah, just to fill the form, just to explain what you will do. You will do on the territory. Even if you're not taking samples, just look at the plant, and everybody could know what you are doing. And because at the moment, if there is no samples that are taken, we have no structure to know who is coming in the northern Quebec. So basically, we just want to maybe have some kind, maybe permits, or even if those are free permits, just to know what is going on. Just to know what is going on the territory. The other matters was, okay, there is no guidelines for researchers either. So maybe that could and again, it already exists in Nunavut. So there are many protocols and guidelines for researchers to structurer. I don't know how to. Yeah, to structure their work, and so maybe the Cree people would know that there is some type of uniformities. I don't know if I can say that. Uniformité. Uniform. Yeah. Yeah, consistency in the research that are done, and maybe that could just les reconforter. I don't know how to say it. So yeah, to reassure them. So there is not. Okay, well, I've already talked about the example of the Nunavut, so that was basically it. There was another point about the sources of informations. There is many researchers, universities, consultants that are doing some research in the territory. So we need to gather all the information that already exists in the territory, but that will be conducted in the following years. Okay, so basically we have the needs to create a database of the studies and not the raw data, because we talk about un moyen, like, yeah, a means to share the information, but we were talking about sensitive and non-sensitive information, because for someone, spawning ground can be insensitive information, and for another it can be like, oh, there are just fish going there in the spring and I don't care. So we need just to choose the kind of information that could be shared to anyone and to be public. So that was one of our discussion. No, okay. There is a manner about how to convince researchers and consultants and universities to share their results. To what point we need to convince them, to what point we need to share those kind of information, because most of the time it takes a lot of money to get those kind of information, and it's not anyone who would like to get those kind of information public and to just like finance the work of, I take like if you have a mining project and the mining is requesting some information that you had a hard time to get, and a hard time to finance those kind of research, and he wants to get it, and we need to have a structure and to have some kind of I don't know how to policy? Yeah, a policy, yeah, of sharing information. Okay, so now that we have recognized the needs to create like a database or something to share those kind of information, we need to address this need to somebody. Is this the mandate of an authority, government? Who will take this manners and would take this problem and make it possible to yeah, I don't know how to finish my sentence. It's late, I'm tired, sorry. But we were talking about the new regional government and the new system that is now in place for for example, the James Bay USC regional government and the Cree Nation government. How maybe those kind of authorities can work together to put in place some committee or a neutral entity that could I don't know, create the database and even the guidelines and all the function, the structure to come in the territory, present the protocols, have just yeah. So that's what that's where the main problem is. Create. I'm sorry, I'm lost in my notes. Okay, so this neutral entity, we need to define the structure of this entity. We need to identify the fundings, of course, because fundings is always important. And maybe partners will be creating and will be responsible for this entity. Will be responsible for the analysis of the protocols, and who will create the guidelines for the research. That's all we have to think about. Okay. Maybe the last thing I can tell you is that we have to create a database structure. And we need to know how will it work. Will it be like a documentation center? Will it be like a website? Will it be like a map site? You can just click on the sector and that is of interest for you, and you have all the information. Will you have some raw data? Will you have just some titles and where to get the information? Who will run this thing? Yes. So we have a lot of questions that remains unanswered. That's it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, sort of. So, before you all forget what's in your notes, maybe you can write it down and send them to me. I'm sorry? Oh, sorry, I didn't look at your hand.
No,
Okay.
I just want to add also that group there.
Yes.
No. I just want to add one point. Currently, everybody is doing their own thing, and everybody is keeping their own information. And we know there's so much information out there that can benefit the public and that can benefit the researchers, that many people can benefit. But we don't have a structure, a coordinated, centralized place where you can get that information. So maybe that's where the idea of creating some kind of structure that would have all this information, or that even will assist you how to access that information you are looking for. So that's what we identified, that need for some kind of form, some kind of structure, some kind of organization. It's a definite need now. At the moment, we don't have such a body that looks after all that information that's available everywhere. I just want to add that part.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Thomas. That was a good wrap-up. So I suggest that we can discuss a little bit now. If you have more comments or additional comments you want to make on either what was discussed within your group or what you heard from the other groups, or you're exhausted. Yay! Okay.
I would just add one thing. Is that this data management structure or entity would need, in my opinion, to have real people, real human, not only a website, to be in touch with the Cree community or the public in general. So we need to think about the interaction with people and not only a website and data management.
Excellent. Thank you. I agree. I passed by that group and they were discussing robotic stuff, and I said, go on.
Hey, wait, that was not the discussion. Yeah, we talked about this kind of that could become a problem. But obviously, we need to have some physical, entity and person, and like someone who will get the protocols and just consult the each communities that are concerned by one or another research. So we were not like in the robotic thing that she was.
I mentioned that also because we, on the number one issue, we also talked about that. So that's
Okay.
that's why I repeated it.
Okay.
I just wanted to add that we definitely talked about having people taking care of that kind of database, but also the need of training, for the need for training up north for the Cree people. It could be half of like some people Jamaican, but also some Cree people if it's part of the Cree nation government and the JBACE UHE. So there definitely will need some training of the people taking care of that, and there could be collaborative work with universities, or to give some training or to collaborate into the making of the database.
Thomas?
Yeah, since we have Hydro-Quebec, I wanted to ask about the problem eel grass in James Bay, which Colin Scott reported. I've heard about that problem in Sesame before the EM1 diversion and before river-to-river diversion. The two diversions now, recently, we are pouring more fresh water into James Bay, and that could more easily increase the ecological problems in James Bay area. The eel grass could totally disappear now. And as you heard from Colin Scott, it affects the migratory birds. And it really affects the Cree right. The Cree right, which is now identified, recognized, and protected by law, and protected by Canadian Constitution, the Cree right to hunt the migratory birds. It affects the exercise of that right. If you have less migratory birds, it even further affects the bread and the butter on the table, which I mentioned earlier. Is Hydro-Quebec looking at that problem, eelgrass problem, and other ecological problems in James Bay? What are they doing about it? Are they doing further studies? Are they communicating their results of the studies with the people of CSB and probably people of Wiminji?
Hi. Maybe I can provide some answer. Yeah, the eelgrass problem is a problem we're following since a long term. There's many different problems that have been entangled with the eelgrass one. The migratory birds change in migratory routes have been noticed, and we had a decline in the eelgrass bed, which up to now we don't know the exact cause. We're kind of in a situation of an investigator where someone's dead, but we have few clues of what happened. We are following with the East Main 1A Rupert Diversion Project. We continue the follow-up on the eelgrass bed. What we monitored up to now is slow recovery of eelgrass bed, but as Mr. Scott mentioned, it is not to the full strength as it was before. But yeah, we're following on that with the community of Sesame and the Niskamoon Corporation. Niskamoon Corporation has, Niskamoon Corporation is a corporation managing the compensation fund related to Hydro project. They have organized a workshop. A workshop for eelgrass was done in 2012. And they have organized a workshop regarding goose hunting just recently. I think it was in November or January. We're not sure. So it's still an issue we're following.
If I could complement, yes, as Karen said, we are still monitoring the recovery, the very slow recovery of the eelgrass. As a matter of fact, in 2014, this summer, we will be on the field with Talaman. So we want to do flyovers with Talaman to assess the situation with them. There's another follow-up plan on 2019, so in 5 years from now. As we said, once we do our study, we want the CRE to participate to these studies. So the terms of reference are always presented to our monitoring committee. So our methodology, our way to work are presented to the CRE. We take their comments. We very often change our protocol to be sure that we take care of the traditional knowledge. Once that we will have the results, the results are presented to the monitoring committee once again, where we have an exchange. Every year we do what we call the MC tour. So we go in every community and we present the results of our study. So there's a kind of public meeting available for people of Chisasibi. I know it's not always very popular, but there is the possibility for people of Chisasibi to have access to our results. And in 2012, we did a traditional workshop to gather all the traditional information regarding eelgrass, just to be sure that we have all the information, to be sure that our study is directly to the case. So we know it's an important issue, and we are continuing our follow-up on the eelgrass study.
Okay. We are talking about this database, knowledge base platform, but the way the research financing is done in North America, often the research team are recognized if they define the problem, observe, make some publication, graduate some students. That's how they are recognized in their profession of researcher. But a very small part is dedicated to financing the solution. And it's one thing to know exactly how the phenomenon of grass, don't remember. Perhaps some people, lots of researchers have noticed by monitoring that there's a problem. We don't argue there's a problem, but where's the team, or where's the financing to come up with financing for solution, plant some grass or whatever? There's no dedicated group or organization that are recognized if they implement some solutions. Yeah.
I think it's. I mean, it's a very good point that you raise about what kind of cooperation and collaboration across the scientific and Cree knowledge community can actually come to grips with this problem. And when I mentioned in my presentation that we're dealing with something that's just too narrow, both spatially and temporally, I guess that raises the question. The speakers from Hydro-Quebec have just mentioned that the protocols are flexible. What potential is there for Hydro-Quebec to redesign a study so that we can do truly James Bay and Southern Hudson Bay comprehensive examination of the impacts? I'm thinking, for example, of sediment cores. Sediment cores could tell us a lot about the exact timing of the turbidity shifts in James and Hudson Bay. The teamwork that's required between those people who do that work and the oceanographers who understand the currents and so on. Or with the geomorphologists who may be able to design engineering approaches to reducing the turbidity and salinity perhaps, but at least the turbidity impacts of the outflow. I mentioned, I glossed over this issue to some extent because I referred to something like more than a threefold increase of discharges. But in fact, during seasonal peaks of drawdown of the reservoirs, the discharge is many times more. It's significantly more than 3 times. So there's this massive scouring effect that's occurring in the lower La Grande. And that stuff is getting dumped out at the mouth. If it turns out that turbidity is the issue, it should be possible to demonstrate that with the right research design. And then the question becomes, as you say, what's the solution? And there need to be solutions. They probably won't be cheap.
If I can just provide some answer. We're, as Jerome mentioned, we're designing our protocol in collaboration with the Cree communities through a monitoring committee that was set up. And all the demands to change the protocol, change the study area, usually goes through that committee. So, but the eelgrass, this committee was set up for the East Main 1A Rupert project. The eelgrass is really tied to the impact of the La Grande complex, which was done many years ago. And for the La Grande complex, funds were set up with the new relationship agreements to deal with the impacts. And those funds are managed through Niskamoon. And that's why I was mentioning that Niskamoon was setting up a workshop with Shisasibi hunters to deal the issue of goose harvesting. So there's already mechanism in place to deal with the different issues.
Just one more question, and that is, well, it's not a question for you specifically, but it's an open, to some extent, political question. To how far does Hydro-Quebec responsibility run here? If in fact it turns out to be scientifically demonstrable that that this is a bigger problem than can be managed with Niskamoon funds, just for example. It probably is.
Yeah, going back to the eelgrass problem, I feel Niskamoon is limited to funding. This has to be more than a Niskamoon mandate. It has to be a Hydro-Quebec mandate. I'm also surprised that Niskamoon or the people of James Bay don't come up with other alternative ways of preserving the feed of Canada geese. If you look at the farming in the south, the farmers work on their fields so their crops can grow. In James Bay, you have a lot of open, but the problem is the tight. What has happened now in recent years is the grass has grown over the feed of Canada geese. Some of these Canada geese feed on the roots of some plants, and the grass have grown 12 inches and 14 inches or even higher. The Canada geese cannot reach it now. Why don't we do like the farmers do? They pass machinery over so Canada Geese can reach what it's feeding on. Every wildlife is smart in their own way, including migratory birds. If you affect the wintering ground of moose, if you affect the feeding ground of moose, he will definitely not be there. The same thing with the beaver. If you affect his habitat, especially the feet of the beaver, it will not be there. It's going to relocate. In the same way, migratory birds will change their patterns, their migratory route pattern. If there's no feet, they will not fly in that area. And that is a true experience of any wildlife. If you affect its habitat, if you affect its feet, it will not be there anymore. So we got to find alternatives how to help the migratory birds be able to reach what they're feeding on. The farmers can use machinery. Why can't we not use machinery in James Bay? We're going to have to clear some brush, that's for sure. The brush has grown over too, where Canada geese used to feed. So we're going to have to do some definite, serious work and trying to help the migratory birds get their feed. They don't feed on eelgrass only. That's not only the only feed. So we got to look at options, alternative ways of doing that.
Okay, we'll take Elizabeth.
Is it okay if it's not about eelgrass? Well, we've been talking about ways of getting research better known and its results better communicated, and I have one statement and one question. One is that I think it's important for those of you who are researchers that when you ask for money to do a research project, that it's important to include a budget for communicating the results in different ways, money for a plain language version of the results, for going to the communities. I mean, maybe you already do this, you probably already do this, but sometimes research funding agencies don't look on that they don't think it's very important, so we have to argue with them about that. And the second thing is I see in these papers an entity that I don't really know what it does, the Cree Research and Development Institute, but does it have a role like in overseeing all research, and if so, would that be an entity that would be a good entity to have a database and people that would make it known what research projects are going on in the territory?
Who wants to answer this? Okay. CRDI stands for Cree Research and Development Institute, which has a short and long history. It was an idea that stemmed from the team and the chief of Waswanipi, who was at the time president of the Model Forest, and the Cree Waswanipi Model Forest, and Waswanipi Cree Model Forest. So the idea was to create a Cree institute that would do research corresponding to Cree interests and needs and concerns, and also that would allow and facilitate research on the territory, and it would eventually become the organization on the Cree territory that would sort of foster, facilitate research that respects Cree culture, Cree interests, and research needs, and at the same time be a conduit for researchers to understand how to be on the land and how to have access to the information they need, etc. So a lot of work has been done towards the creation of the Cree Research Institute. So it does exist virtually, but it's still not yet in complete toddlership. I mean, it's not an infant. It's not yet born. It's kind of like on the edge of being in existence. A lot of efforts were done in the sense of gathering all stakeholders that might be interested in being partners in making this a reality. Forums were done, and even some research has started because it kind of started from the ground. So a few results are already out there. and publications so small, and but the research institute will eventually grow and grow wings, and it will take off, I hope, and it's just a matter of time, I think, because a lot of things have been in the way of a complete gestation and birth. Yeah, yeah. But all the elements are there. Part of the team is also there, but we just need a little bit more time to make it a functioning and operational entity. And yes, its role would be absolutely to probably act as a conversion center for a database and for managing the information and the definition of protocols that correspond to everybody's interests and needs. So yeah, but it has started modestly, and it's still a modest effort with a lot of people kind of aware of where it wants to go, but it's not completely fully non-virtual. I don't know if that answers it, but yes. It will be, sorry, it will be also a regional entity. It will not remain in Waswanipi, obviously. It started in Waswanipi, but it will eventually be transferred to the regional level. And it will also address more issues than forestry. All the development issues will be integrated in there, as well as cultural issues and social issues and health issues. Yeah, yeah. A big thing. Yeah. Big dream. But it will become a reality one day. Just watch.
Just a comment. I've been thinking that as part of our studies, and Elizabeth could speak about this as well, we have a consent form, and every person that participates that is a subject of the research project has to sign or signs a consent form, which is also signed by the research team. And a form like that could be modified a little bit, because then in there, for example, it spells out what should be done in terms of follow-up if certain results are obtained and so on. But why couldn't it include binding the researcher to reporting to the community, and that could be specified how that should be done, and that there could be a template for broadening it so that the researcher is absolutely bound to report things in a certain way and so on. And a group like you're generating could easily...
it's absolutely in the works. Yes, yes, yes. It's part of the things that were discussed a while back when we were starting to draft these type of guidelines and protocols. Yeah.
You still, research can't have too many sort of restrictions, but I think that when it's actually all sorted out, that indeed you have on paper and that there's a commitment to report in certain ways, and you could specify which they ought to be.
Absolutely. Well, are you guys exhausted, or you want to continue discussions? It's now 5:30 sharp. So applaud yourselves. I just wanted to make a few comments before we close, and maybe ask Thomas to do the closing prayer. I had the idea of asking all of you to first, the ones that have the notes, the leaders, if you can either give me your notes or send them to me by email, or send them to Mark Jetten. That would help very much for writing up the final report on this workshop. Also, if you have thoughts in your mind tonight and it really eats you up and you need to share them, you can email Mark. Let's say Mark or me, because we're going to share our emails, but you can email ideas, suggestions for tomorrow's work, which is more geared towards finding real solutions, making a few moral commitments. So if you have ideas that you want to share, that you want me to put in the final report, you can also write it on a piece of paper. Tomorrow morning we can look at these ideas and discuss them as a first part of the day. So I leave it up to you on either of the 4 issues or some other issues that are related that we did not discuss or mention here. Never know. Okay. My email address is Lussier Catherine, Lussier, or maybe I should give you just my card.
Actually,
At videotron.ca, but if you have Mark's email?
yeah, Catherine, what I was suggesting is we haven't mentioned this today, but we already have several existing protocols for research on the James Bay territory. So if some of you have trouble falling asleep tonight, maybe you could read those. So I suggested emailing it to you, so you'd have our emails too if you'd like to send some. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to send it to all the participants.
Any comment, question, Martin? You look like you're all... Okay, yes, we tend to forget, don't we? Yeah. Thomas.
Catherine, I was just going to suggest, why don't we simply maybe tomorrow morning or just pass a paper around to get everybody's coordinates and their email addresses and everything.
Absolutely. I was going to do that today, and I thought, okay, let's not bother them right now because it's an excellent idea. Tomorrow we will do that.
Yeah, well, if people agree, I can just put all your emails in the destination so you'll know who to send it to. If anybody doesn't want his email to be known by the others, let me know.
Okay, so maybe we can close the day with a closing prayer. Thomas, will you oblige us?
I always enjoy every meeting. There's never a dull moment or boring moment, especially with a variety of expertise around the table. Lighten our darkness, we beseech thee, O Lord, and by thy great mercy, defend us from all perils and dangers of this night. For the love of thy only Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. God bless everyone.